She's been in Atlanta for over 10 years, and that's how she's talking.
No, that's Oklahoma, girl.
So today, we are tackling just we see this on Twitter all the time.
Whew.
Oh my gosh.
Guys.
And I know rappers, you're frustrated. I'm frustrated too, really, really.
Come on.
And there's always the question of, is there enough Christ in CHH? Spoiler, yes.
Bye, video's over. If you like it.
I don't, but for real though, I get frustrated with this argument for several reasons.
Let's get into it.
One. Let me not count, because I go all over the place. So I'm gonna be like, one.
These points be going together.
Exactly. First of all, there are a lot of people who are out here glorifying God with the music that they make.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, so many that I can't name them, although I could name a bunch.
Right.
God has not left the content. And it's so frustrating to me. There's so many people who are constantly talking about God and referencing scripture. I think that the conversation about Christ and our faith walks has shifted.
Yeah.
Where we're more giving testimony and talking about what God has done in our lives. And that is not as overtly scriptural in terms of, oh, I know that verse. And I think it's easy to think that God has left the content for that reason.
Right.
But he absolutely has not. We have to give our rappers room to tell their stories.
And I think that's the issue, is like, you guys, we love a parable or a narrative tale in the Bible, but when someone gives you parables and narrative tales on beats, all of a sudden it's no longer Christian. And I think we have to get past the point where we need chapter and verse to only believe that God is in it, when we are not quoting chapter and verse all day, every day, and God is in us. Like, we need to be so much more aware, so much more open to other people and to how we witness. Like, what is your witness? Only just like you picking up a Bible and reading the word to someone, or is it living life with someone? And that's, the music is supposed to move with you throughout life. It's not only for Sunday. It's not only for when you need to be preached at. You're supposed to live with this. Like, let it sit with you and marinate with you and, resonate with you, and someone you can actually, kind of commiserate with their story and understanding, and or even something that you've never experienced, and you can go, wow, that touched my heart and made me think about something differently. That's God too.
The word says that we overcome by the blood of the Lamb and the word of our testimony. And I think that having artists who are sharing their testimony, sharing the things that God is doing in their lives, it's something that helps them and helps us too. Because you may not read a story of cancer survival in the Bible,
right? But
somebody can tell it and tell you about the ways that God was completely all up and through.
Yeah.
You may not hear a story of getting shot in the Bible, but then to have someone go through that experience and say, this is how I leaned on God through this. These are the scriptures that I relied on, but I can tell my story of how I felt. Then I think it's so valuable to the body. It is so, so valuable, and we can't discredit that. And what frustrates me about that is that I don't hear that attack on any other Christian genre. I feel like, you have so many other artists taking so much liberty with the language that they use. I'm not saying that they're right or wrong.
Right.
I'm not saying, really, sis? What I'm saying is that, there's so many artists that can take so much liberty with the flowery and floral and lovey-dovey language that they use with their music. But then it's like a rapper says something and we're like, it's unfair. And the thing is, when people make this criticism of CHH, sometimes I'm like, what are you looking for?
Please let me know.
Because
we got Bible on beats already.
Exactly. And the thing is, I think that we deserve to also be able to enjoy ourselves. I think that, why can't we rejoice through a bop? Why can't, I don't want it to always have to be preachy. I think it's important. I think that kind of music has value. Right. But I also think that we need to give the genre room to grow and room to have different elements of creativity. We have got to step out of the space where we want everything to sound like cross movement. I'm not saying we're off that, like it's over, it's done. I'm saying there's more. Right. And there should be room for more. If our gifts are supposed to make room for us, then we can't constantly tell people that if they don't sound like CHH, they got to go somewhere else. Right.
And then that sound of CHH be so tiny from 10 years ago that y'all just don't want to hear nothing that doesn't sound like that. Like, the minute a beat even is remotely familiar to something that you might have heard coming from somebody else's car, that sounded like something that's semi secular, you get like, oh Lord, now you're just trying to be like the world. I'm like, or we're actually kind of innovating in our own way and pushing the genre forward in our own way as well. We have our own producers now who are Christian producers who want to work with Christian artists and do something innovative and new. Let that ride too. Like, it's
absolutely one of the things that drew me to Christian hip hop was I finally found music that I could live with. Not just, okay, I'm at church, I'm listening to this. I don't want to listen to worship music 24/7.
just not possible.
I just want to shake it up and do other things. So when I first started listening to Christian hip hop and finding artists where I'm like, oh, sounds I like, melodies I like, things that I like, it feels like it's so much easier for me to be like, I don't have to listen to anything else that comes out on the secular side because I have so many things that are clean, that are glorifying God and that are edifying to me that are within this genre. And the second that we try to stifle that, then we start to make people feel like if you want to be creative, you got to go somewhere else. Oh, I'm sorry, you like to experiment with those sounds? We don't do that over here. And the thing is, the gospel has never been about exclusivity. So when we make statements like that, we have to be really mindful that we're not shutting down someone's desire to minister because it doesn't sound like something that came out 12 plus years ago.
I think that is the truth.
You see why I couldn't number my points? I wouldn't know what number I was on.
Come on now. I think it's really interesting that continues to come up, and I don't think it's really acknowledged as to what they're looking for. And the thing is, if you say what you're looking for, I promise we can find an artist who's doing that. Like, I promise we can find you an artist who is doing that thing. But because not everyone is doing that thing, if you make it seem like as the only one way to be Christian, and there just really isn't.
Exactly. And honestly, I think it's really hurtful and disrespectful to the artists who are like, I'm rapping about Jesus, and I can't stand that every time the genre that I'm in, loving, working on, doing as God is leading me is constantly being attacked by us. Woo. And so I can imagine how frustrating it is because I see the threads. I see on Twitter all the time where there's a constant conversation about y'all aren't rapping about Jesus. Y'all aren't rapping about Jesus. And I'm like, I hear so many Jesus raps. All the time. We have playlists and playlists and playlists all on our Spotify, clean_ears_podcast. And there's so much information where it's like God is all up and through. So sometimes I wonder if we need to not be so quick to hear something and say we don't see God in it, so we're out. Do we need to listen again? Do we need to try to maybe understand? And you know, the word says that wisdom seeks to understand over being understood. And sometimes I think it's important that we stop and do our research a little bit instead of being quick to say, oh, you're doing an album about marriage or an album about sex or whatever, then, oh, I don't understand where, you know, that's, I would like to point you to the Songs of Songs. Songs of Songs, friend. And in the Bible. That's the thing. I think that we have to, the gospel is for every aspect of life. It's not just this, okay, we want to talk about salvation only, but when it comes to living our everyday lives, there's no application, there's no musical support for that, there's no entertainment for that, there's no education through entertainment for that. That's unfair. And again, I am hurt. I hear too much music that's coming out right now all the time where people are like, hey, I'm here being joyful in the Lord and I'm sharing my story and I'm happy and I'm having a good day and God is amazing and all these things. And then it's like, that's the response from us on Twitter. It's so discouraging. And the thing is, we could kill this art form by constantly indirectly beating down the people who are giving it to us. We're asking for what? More and more and more and more. And you're like, I'm studying, I'm praying, I'm fasting, I'm creating. What more do you want? I just don't want us to drive people away. And not to say that you have the power to do that, but you also don't know what people struggle with. It's like, come on, this is not we're supposed to look differently in that we're like, hey, if we feel like CHH needs something and we have a community, we should be able to come together and say, hey, this is what I think will be valuable. Hey, have you considered doing a song about this? Blah, 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 blah. But do it in a way that's constructive. And but to just throw an inflammatory tweet out there and be like, you know what? CHH ain't it. Don't look to CHH to be getting your little gospel feels, girl, because it's not it. It's like, wow,
Yeah.
that's really mean.
Right. That's crazy.
So guys, what we want you to do is we want to continue the conversation in the comments. If there is a rapper that you love that is still just spitting these bars for the Lord, drop them in the comments, because we want to show love. If we know them, we want to shout them out. If we don't know them, we definitely want to find them, listen, and drop them on the playlist.
Yeah.
But we want to lift up the people who are really, really doing this thing, and make sure that they get the recognition they need, that they get their flowers.
Yeah.
And yeah, help us do that.
We want to support them. We want to show them love. We want to keep them in the genre, guys. That's the important part. Is like showing them that they're really making a difference, and that their ministry is worth it.
Yes.
You're asking a lot of someone to put themselves out there when it comes to music, and then when you berate them because you didn't feel like they did enough, that's rough.
Yes, and when I say, when it comes to these shows, like even show quality is getting better. We can't still want people to just hold a microphone and rap in a dark basement with no equipment, no lights, no sounds, because they're doing it in the name of the Lord. I think it's so important to have show quality. I think it's so important to have something that also looks aesthetically pleasing as well, because our God is a God of excellence.
Yes.
And
He gave you this whole sky, constantly colored.
Just, we don't even know the colors. We don't even know all of them.
No.
And I think it's a sign of growth. It's a sign of investment. And it's just important that we have these things as well, because we can't keep asking people to and trying to turn away from what's in the world when we allow the world to have access to all of the things that we decided were sinful but are not. Lights are not sinful.
Not
guys.
at all.
These screens and these visuals, not sinful. You know, I think it's important that we continue to step the show quality up. We recently went to the Unashamed Forever tour. Excellent show quality. And that stuff is important, because that way a Christian who's like, hey, I have a friend who's on the fence, I want to invite her, but I want to invite her to just hear some guy she's never heard of spit scriptures in a basement. It's like, maybe one day when she's like saved, we can do that. But until then, I need to bring her into an experience that feels a little bit more familiar to her. Or him. If you are liking this video.
Yeah, give them love in the comments. Like the video. Share it all around. Subscribe. Because that's a good look right there. Support your fam by subscribing. We appreciate you.
I know I yelled a little bit today, but please. You guys, until next time.
Have a good time.
Bye.